guys? It's your girl Carly. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. If you are new here, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. I post videos every single Sunday and I would love to see you in the next one. In today's video, we are doing an April reset routine, and you might be like, Carly, didn't we literally just do a reset routine? And yes, that's my bad. I fell behind on the YouTube schedule a little bit and March came out late. However, we are on top of it again and we are here for an April reset routine. Doing these videos actually keeps me very accountable in a lot of different ways, and I'm excited to talk through everything that happened in March and how we're moving forward for April. And also too, I realized that I didn't do any like goal reflection or updates with you guys in the last video, which I feel like I should have been doing. So in today's video, we are going to reflect on last month's goals and where they kind of landed and how that's influencing our goals for the next month. So without further ado, let's get into the video. First things first, let's get into reflection. Question number one is what went well this month. This month for me was actually like insanely packed and crazy for me in so many different ways. One of the largest ways is I actually went to the Juno Awards, which are essentially like the Canadian Grammys. They're like a Canadian music award show, and they had them in my city. I literally started my whole Junos weekend on March 10th with a comedy show, and I went from March 10th to March 13th doing things every single night, and not even just like one thing, like multiple things all of the time, and I had a freaking blast. I met so many cool people, I went to so many cool events, I made some really great connections. I actually ended up spending most of my time with the TikTok Canada team. So fun and so fantastic, and they were like some of the nicest people I've ever met, and I made really cool friendships and connections with other people in the music industry and in the social media world and in LA and New York and all of these places, and it was actually so much fun. Obviously, I got to dress up, I got to do the red carpet, which was crazy, which was actually my first red carpet. And it's so funny because the guy on the TikTok team who took us down the red carpet was like, oh, this obviously like isn't your first red carpet. And I was like, no, like it is. Like it's my first like award show red carpet. I've done like quote unquote red carpets like at events that have red carpets, but nothing like to this kind of scale. So that was really cool and really exciting. A couple of my friends also own various like radio stations or news outlets, and I got to see them on the runway, which was really cool as well. And it was just like overall such an incredible once in a lifetime, hopefully I get to go again, but an incredible once in a lifetime experience. And I'm so grateful for that. So shout out TikTok Canada for taking me. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Another thing that went so well this month, another travel related fun event type of thing, is I actually went to Seattle, and it was my first time going to Seattle. I went for my friend's 30th birthday and we had so much fun. Like I said, I've never been to Seattle before, and as soon as I touched down, literally I touched down, I got into her car, and we got maybe 5 minutes away from the airport, and I was like, I love it here, I want to move. And I literally still feel the same way, to the point where on the trip, me and my girlfriend were discussing moving to Seattle and what that would look like for us. I freaking loved it. I loved everything about Seattle. It's green, it's gorgeous, but it's still like the US, so they have like Target and stuff. What I really loved about it is it's kind of like, obviously because it's on the West Coast and right under BC, it's very like Vancouver-esque, like in terms of it's by the water and it's green and everybody's like a little bit granola. What I loved about it is that it still is the US. So they have like Targets and Ultas and like the fun US things that we don't have in Canada. But I love the blend of it because everybody is really nice. And originally I thought Seattle was kind of just like, I don't know, just like a minor city. Like I know that it's a big city and whatnot, but when I think of like major cities or innovative cities, I think of like LA, New York, Austin, Atlanta, Chicago, those types of places. I don't really think of Seattle. I was sorely mistaken because Seattle is like a huge tech city, which I think is crazy, and I really loved that too. And it was such an interesting dynamic, and I think it's why I actually really liked Seattle and Washington overall, is because the people there are making a fuck ton of money, but they're just like cool, down-to-earth people, versus you don't really get that in like the LAs and the New Yorks. You can definitely tell who is making a lot of money and what their personality types are like. But in Seattle, everybody's just chill. And I was obsessed. I loved it. We went to so many cool events, so many cool lesbian bars. It was just so much fun. I had a fucking amazing time. And honestly, I've been thinking about incorporating in the US and immigrating to the US and what that kind of looks like. Maybe not full time, but always having the option is really good. I was thinking, honestly, I might put my YGK headquarters in Seattle. I might do it because I loved it so fucking much. So shout out to Seattle. you are definitely something that went well this month. Moving on, let's go into what didn't go so well this month. Honestly, I feel like one of the largest things that didn't go so well for me this month was the fact that I think I just wasn't properly taking care of myself. And that obviously came with the fact that I was running around from events. Like, I started my judos weekend on March 10th, and then I came home from Seattle on March 20th, and then I took one day off, and then I was back to work, and then I had a bunch of other things to do, and I was also supposed to go to town again that following weekend. And because of that, I wasn't really taking a lot of time to do my morning routine or indulge in self-care or just take care of my mental health, because I was so go for everything. And don't get me wrong, I had a great time. I really loved it. I stayed up way later than I usually do, and I probably fucked up my circadian rhythm a lot. Well, I actually know I did. I was living and I was having a great time, and I don't regret it. But once I kind of started slowing down, I did notice that that was something that I was neglecting, even though I was doing small self-care things here and there. Like, I got a massage before I went to Seattle because my body was broken from running around in heels for 5 days to various events and staying up till 3 a.m. And then when I was in Seattle, I did a hydrotherapy day because I was there earlier than everybody else, and I did small kind of self-care things. But I wish that I honestly did a little bit more, and I was a little bit more selfish with my time, because maybe that would have made me feel a little bit less exhausted and I'd have a little bit more of a faster recovery time. I do think that I wish that would have gone a little bit better for me. Not to say it was necessarily bad, but it definitely was something that I probably should have prioritized a little bit more, and that I will do in the future. Something else that I don't think went well this month is that I spent a lot of money without really thinking about it. I feel like in the moment, I was soothing myself because I was like, oh, this is for work and it's for fun and it's a birthday party and I'm doing all these things. And I don't necessarily regret it, to be honest. I think that spending that money and doing that stuff was actually fantastic. I had a great time. I didn't feel pressured to spend money. I didn't feel I don't have this money so I can't spend it. I didn't really feel like that. But if you watch these videos, I've been a lot more into finances and setting myself up well, and there's so many other reasons that are behind that. And I just feel like this month I kind of reverted back into my old money habits, which I don't necessarily obviously want to go into or enjoy being in that kind of aspect. That was definitely something that didn't go well this month. It was definitely eye-opening, and we'll get into finances later in this video where I probably will talk more in depth about how that made me feel. Falling back into those financial patterns and then not being super aware and maybe a little too lenient with myself when it came to spending money definitely was something that didn't go so well. Next up is, what challenges did I overcome this month? When I was writing this down, there's literally one sentence and it just says sleeping, LMFAO. Which honestly I think is funny, because sleeping was a challenge that I overcame for the past 2.5 weeks that I was running around the city. I say this kind of in a joking haha way, because obviously we need to sleep. I'm the kind of person who loves a 9:30 p.m. bedtime, and staying up till 3-4 a.m. every single night was definitely a challenge for me. Obviously I could have cut the night early. I could have been okay, I'm going to bed, I'm doing these things, but I didn't want to. I was having a great time. I wanted to stay out, but it definitely was that was a challenge for me. I was literally running on fumes for 2.5 weeks. So that is really my only challenge answer. Is it kind of a real one? Not really, but sleeping was a challenge that I overcame. Next up is, where did I spend most of my energy this month, and did I want to spend it there? This month I think I spent most of my energy working and traveling. And to answer if I wanted to spend it there, I think absolutely yes, I did. I had such a great time doing fun work activities and going to events and meeting people and doing all these things, and then celebrating people's birthdays and exploring new cities and having this fantastic time. And honestly, I don't think I would spend that time any other way. My job is basically here all the time. I can do my job when I'm not doing these fun activities, and I actually do think that me and my team had a really good setup and discussion and kind of expectations that were set out while I was running around doing events and stuff like that. And because of that, it made me less stressed. It allowed me to enjoy these events more, because I wasn't feeling oh, I could go to this thing, that means I'm not doing this thing. It was okay, well, I'm going to this thing and everybody already knows I'm out of office or at an event or whatever, and this is when they can expect this from me. And I think by having that communication and getting those things done before I went to these events and on these trips was actually really fantastic, and it let me really enjoy it in the moment. So I would say work and travel was definitely where I spent most of my time this month, and I absolutely loved that I did. What is one thing I want to release coming into the new month? The answer for this is definitely bad financial habits. Like I said, we will probably get more into where I actually spent my money and how I felt about that in the finance section of this video. I felt myself slipping back into bad habits where I wasn't really checking, and I feel like I get that emotional kind of feeling where I'm spending the money and maybe I know I have the money, but internally I know I'm like, I'm spending too much money. Like, this is kind of getting out of control. It doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel kind of bad, honestly, even though I know that sometimes you just spend more money than normal. It's fine if you're not hitting the exact numbers every single time, but I do feel like I push a little bit even out of that boundary, and I was kind of chaotic and I was not thinking about my budgets or anything like that. So I want to release those bad financial habits for the month of April and really get back into my good financial habits and get myself back on track so that I can set myself up for future financial goals like a house or a car or anything in between that I need to have my financial house in order to be able to get to. Moving on, let's talk vision board of the month. This is actually like one of the most fun things that I think I've implemented in my monthly reset. I'm having a great time with it, just like throwing things together on a vision board based off like the vibe that I'm feeling for the upcoming month. So if you take a look here, I have like my consistent ones, which is like my social media goals for Instagram and for TikTok. And I do have some other ones that have kind of transferred over from the original like 2023 vision board as well as last month's. I have the microphone stand, which obviously is podcast representative, and then I also have the little My First Home on here. I honestly just wanted it to feel like very fun and very spring and like very happy when I looked at it. I think this vision board honestly is a little bit less goal oriented versus like just makes my brain feel good type of vision board. I do have money on here obviously because that is something that I'm trying to really focus and really work on in the month of April, so that's up there. I also have this little pink Pilates princess workout moment because we know I love a pink moment. I think that's very, very clear to all of us. Something I've really been loving is getting in the gym more, so I put that on there to kind of keep that energy alive. The My First Home one in here is me trying to manifest a house that works out for me. I've been house hunting since August of last year. I will get fully into it in a different video, but it's definitely been a trying time trying to figure out housing and stuff, and my lease is up in July. I'm actually sitting down with my realtor the day that I'm filming this video, and we're kind of making a full-on plan, so hopefully in the future you'll be able to see YGK house stuff. I'm putting that on there to manifest the good vibes to hopefully find a house that is the exact right house for me. Moving on, let's talk books to read for the month. Last month I talked about how I was reading How to Build a Goddamn Empire and the 5 a.m. Club, but honestly I was traveling too much to read more than one book, and I'm actually not even done How to Build a Goddamn Empire, but I am almost done, and next up I will be reading the 5 a.m. Club. I don't know if I've talked about this before, but I'm so not like a front sleeve book person, so all of my books just are like the spine. This is the 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. So many people that I've recommended this to, they love this book. It's been life-changing. Reading 5 a.m. Club will definitely kick my ass again and allow me to create really good morning habits and maybe even kind of shift and shape my morning routine. And if that does happen, you guys know I will film an updating morning routine for you guys. 5 a.m. Club is definitely on my list to read for this month, and I also have another book called Good Mornings that I might read as well if I do get through 5 a.m. Club, but no promises on that one. 5 a.m. is definitely the book to read for April. Okay, let's get into finances. I feel like I've talked this to death at this point, but March was honestly a hard time financially for me. Not in the way that I was struggling, but in the way I was struggling to be in control. Like I said, this definitely was a month where I just threw caution to the wind. At one point it was fine, like going over my budget a little bit was fine, but actually adding up these numbers, I felt like sick and awful. And I don't really want to feel like that. And so while I'm sharing this for financial transparency and to be like, hey, it's fine, we all do kind of pop off sometimes, this definitely is a really good reminder and a big reason why I continue to do these things and hold myself accountable so that I don't just continue to do this and then one day I'm like, oh, I am in a lot worse place than I thought I was. Let's get into finances. First things first, let's talk subscriptions. Subscriptions I actually feel like was similar, if not less than last month. Let me just check. Oh, it was actually less. So last month I spent $276.44 on subscriptions, and this month I spent $194.62. Something that I do actually appreciate and love about going through and doing these is that I find so many subscriptions and things that I just have that I haven't canceled that I eventually cancel, and so this number has actually come down a lot. I think in January it was like $700 something. There were some yearly things that I had to pay in there, which is why it was so much, but this actually feels really good to me to see that this is a lot lower than it normally is. I'm actually really happy that this is a lot lower than I have planned. I actually have $250 on here. If we're being honest, I think I might change this to just $200, because now that we're kind of hovering at that $195, $200 mark, I feel like that is pretty good. There's no subscriptions that I want to cancel except maybe 1 or 2. So I'm gonna lower that down to $200, and I feel good about that. Next up, let's talk transportation and travel. My goal this month, or the budget, I guess, if you will, that I have for travel and transportation is $30. This was kind of a pop-off month because I was traveling so much and I had so many expenses, and I also booked a couple trips and stuff like that, which we will get into. The majority of this, which actually, now that I look at it, I'm like, some of these Uber charges should have been on my business credit card, but I was probably just in the moment and being like, oh, whatever, just get an Uber. As you can see, the largest purchases in here are Air Canada, which is a flight, which was actually my flight to Seattle, and then also I have a WestJet charge down here, which is a flight that I'm going on in June to Toronto. Moving on to our food budget. The budget that I have for food every single month is $500, and that includes restaurants, takeout, groceries, alcohol, coffee, anything like that. The amount of money I actually spent this month was $1,005.79, and that obviously is also over budget, slightly more than double my budget. Now this kind of comes back into the fact that I was traveling and I was out and I was doing things. Not only did I eat the conversion, so even though something was costing me like maybe $10 in the US, it was costing me $17 Canadian, which was eating up a lot of my budget. Also too, something about me is giving gifts is definitely my love language. It's how I show love to my friends and my partner and everybody. So doing things like paying for the table or picking up the bill or buying somebody like a nice bottle of wine is something that I really enjoy, and it's something that I don't regret spending money on in this category. Is it double my budget? Yes. But do I regret it? Not really. Moving into the fun money category, this is where I popped off and not in a good way. I lasted 4 days into the month of March before I spent a lot of money. As you can see, I had a really big purchase day, literally on March 4th. I did start the month off spending a lot of money, and I actually think that set the tone accidentally for the month because I just threw caution to the wind and then I just didn't stop. A lot of these big purchases are mostly because of conversion. Earlier I talked about not taking good enough care of myself as much as I wanted to, but you can definitely see that I tried here and there, and that didn't come without an expense. The rest of the stuff is also kind of fun things. I have a gift one in here. I gifted my friends who live in Seattle a gift card to their favorite bakery for allowing me to stay at their house. But it's kind of in this last week here down at the bottom that was chaotic for me, because as you can see, as soon as I started going to Sephora, it's like I didn't stop. I went to the mall over the weekend because I was on the hunt for my eyebrow gel and I couldn't find it anywhere, and the specific Sephora that I went into had it in stock, so I bought 3 of them. I suddenly walked out with a million things, and this is definitely where it gets into my old toxic habits, spending money and not really thinking about it, which is something I simply just don't want to do, or spending money and knowing it makes me feel kind of icky that I'm spending that money, but doing it anyways because my brain is like, spending money is fun and we're getting all these things. And something that I find that I actually have been a lot more strict with myself because of that. I need to go in with a mission and get out. If I am left to my own devices to roam, I'll be like, oh, maybe I'll get this and maybe I'll get this, and that's how I end up racking up a bill. So as you can see, the fun money goal, the budget for the month is $850. I spent $3,128.97. Arguably nuts. There are some things obviously where I'm like, I felt good about spending that money and that's fantastic, but there's other things that I'm like, damn, I wish I didn't do that. And this was definitely an eye-opening experience and an awakening to the fact that I was falling back into toxic money habits. Like I said, overall, March was an interesting money month for me. It definitely was not my proudest money month moment. However, I did learn a lot. While I'm not happy with the way I had to learn it, I am appreciative that I did go through it so I can solidify what I've learned and my boundaries and my budgets and stuff like that and come out on the other end a little more successful. But your girl did not want to spend that money this month, but it just happened. Moving on, let's get into goals. I know earlier I talked about how we didn't do any goal reflection, so let's dive into that right now. Starting off with paying a large chunk of my credit card off. This one I have in yellow. I was 50-50 on this goal because I did pay off a lot of my credit card. I did send more money than I usually do to my credit card and essentially paid off a large chunk of it. However, my bad financial habits of the month outweighed that, so I'm kind of still in the same position. I didn't make any kind of forward progress. I'm still in the same place that I am now. However, it's not like I didn't contribute those large chunks. It's just that those bad financial habits combated the success. When it came to decluttering and organizing my kitchen, I'm also kind of 50-50 on this goal as well. I ended up cleaning and organizing, getting rid of a lot of things in that space. However, as I look over, it still is cluttered with new stuff. What I've kind of realized is I think that I need to create myself like a system for like a catch-all situation, because I don't eat at my kitchen table and I really never have, and I don't have any other purpose for it. It does become the catch-all of my living room when it comes to like PR and just like extra stuff that I haven't put away yet. It does all find itself in my kitchen and on my kitchen table. So what I've kind of realized is I think I need to develop more of like a catch-all system, which is not my kitchen table, so I can organize the stuff that needs to be there that maybe is like in transit to where it needs to go, but it doesn't all have to sit on my kitchen table and look kind of disastrous and unorganized. For drinking 3 liters of water a day and getting 10,000 steps in, I completed this goal, I would say 8 out of 10. And I say this because this goal like rapidly changed as soon as I filmed the video and edited it. A couple days later, I decided 10,000 steps a day isn't necessarily a goal that I was looking at creating. Instead, I kind of morphed the goal into 1 hour of movement a day. So that could mean walking, even if I'm walking while I'm having a meeting, or being in the gym and lifting, or doing Pilates, or even like going out with friends and walking everywhere and doing that kind of thing, versus focusing on the number of steps. And I think that kind of worked for me better because it's a way to kind of naturally integrate movement overall into my life, which honestly I like and I'm looking more into, versus like, this is how many things that I have to do. I think that I definitely could have spiraled and started to beat myself up over not reaching these goals. So that is why I changed that 10,000 step goal. March was the Hey Bitches launch month and it went really, really well. I put this as a yes for me. I launched 3 episodes on the first day back, which was super fantastic. I learned a lot in the process of filming and editing and creating social assets for that. I did miss the second week for the podcast simply because I was traveling and I already was doing so much with the podcast that I totally forgot that I had to do another episode. Quickly made it up and the podcast is back to normal posting every single week, so I'm counting that as an overarching yes. Talking about hiring a VA for YouTube Shorts, I didn't do this. And I didn't do this because I simply just didn't have time. I'm so sorry if you can hear that siren in the background. Damn! Is this fire right next door? I didn't get this done, but the intention was there. I didn't want to just hire someone just for the sake of hiring someone. I wanted to be able to actually interview and vet people, and I just didn't have that time in March, and that is something that I definitely am focusing on in April, but I wanted to actually bring somebody onto the team who would be a good fit and would be good for this job. Okay, so let's talk about business and personal goals for this month. Personal goals wise, the first one is having a no spend month. Obviously, this is to combat the spending habits that I had the month before. I don't actually think having no spend consistently is a good thing, but I do think that once in a while it's good, and this is my once in a while. I don't think I'm gonna be super strict on myself. Obviously, I still have expenses and I still want to enjoy my life. My girlfriend comes back in the month of April, so I'm sure we'll be out and going on dates and doing things. So I don't want to be super restrictive, but I want to be very aware, and on the days where I don't have to spend money, if I'm not leaving the house or doing anything like that, I don't want to spend money. So that is a personal goal for this month. The next one is to lift weights 3 times a week. I've actually really been enjoying being in the gym and lifting weights. I say this in a way where I'm basically only doing arms because I was a dancer for so long, I've done lower body for so long, I don't want to do lower body anymore. I bought a program from an influencer that I love, her name's Morgan, Momo Muscle. I'm doing the fighter program, which actually is more so for the masculine lesbian build, but I love the idea of being a little femme with jacked muscles, so I am really excited. I've been having a good time, I've really been enjoying it. My goal is to consistently lift 3 times a week, because there's some weeks where I'll lift once and I'll be I'm done. Sometimes I'll lift 2 times a week. I haven't hit the full 3 times a week yet, which is why it is on my personal goals for the month of April. My last personal goal is to declutter my wardrobe. This ties back into the little organized closet on my vision board. I feel like I've decluttered and decluttered and decluttered, but just as the nature of my business, I do have a lot of stuff always coming in, and I feel like I have to be more on top of things going out. My mom has also been taking over my Poshmark. I will still have a lot of stuff I think coming up there. So hopefully in the future you will be able to shop some of my stuff if you are interested, but decluttering the closets is definitely something that I need to do because it's getting chaotic and stressful, and I feel like things just don't have a place, and it's making me kind of nuts, and I just don't want to feel that way. Moving on to business and career goals, my first one is to get ahead on the podcast by 1 month. I put out 1 podcast episode a week, so that is 4 podcast episodes-ish a month, depending on how many weeks there are in the month. Obviously, with travel and everything that happened last month, I really couldn't get ahead, but I really want to prioritize that this month, and if that means things like working past the work hours that I normally do or working on the weekend, I do really want to complete that goal, especially with my girlfriend coming back only for like 2.5 weeks. I want to spend as much time with her as I can, and I don't want to spend that time having to do work, which also is a fantastic thing because if I ever need to push things in the future, I know that that is still coming out and I don't need to be stressed about it, and it'll free up time on my actual calendar to maybe get ahead on other things. The last goal is to be really consistent with YouTube this month. I think that there are certain content creators where you're a long form content creator, or like you started on YouTube and that becomes really easy for you, or you're a shorter form content creator and you started on Instagram and then did TikTok and stuff like that, and that is easier for you. Wanting to be like a well-rounded creator, I definitely want to be a lot more consistent on YouTube this month. I think that I came out strong in the first 2 months of the year. March was kind of all over the place, and April I want to be very consistent again and continue to grow this platform. And with that, that brings us to the end of our April reset routine. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below. I post videos every single Sunday, and I would love to see you in the next one. Bye!